Welcome to Behavioral Health Today, a podcast brought to you by the Triad Network. This podcast is designed to share trending topics occurring within the world and our communities and bring them a behavioral and mental health perspective.
Welcome to Behavioral Health Today. I'm your host, Dr. Erin Elmore. My guest today is Wayne Altman. Wayne is an entrepreneur and founder of Melody Clouds. After suffering from tinnitus and looking for relief for all the noise experienced as a result of his illness, Wayne became aware of binaural beats. Because of the frequencies of binaural beats, he's able to give himself a respite from the noise. From this experience, Wayne created Melody Clouds, a subscription relaxation website and app with over 8,000 hours of Solfeggio, binaural beats, guided meditation, and audiobooks, all designed to relax and educate its subscribers. We're so excited to have Wayne with us today to discuss the healing and beneficial effects of binaural beats and also his subscription service called Melody Clouds. Wayne, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. This is great. And you did that very, very well. I'm sitting here tearing up.
Thank you. Well, that's what I do, but I want to know more about what you do well too. So we're each in our element here. Yeah, tell me as we start, what was your first experience of binaural beats, or maybe even explain what that is for our listeners?
Yeah. So in May, I had a friend of mine who I was sharing with him that I have tinnitus or tinnitus. Some people, listen to it or hear it. That's what that's how they pronounce it. But what it is it's nerve damage. And what you're hearing is the result of that nerve damage. It happens to be in your ear. That's why you're hearing it. Okay. And for me, it is this like really bad whining and screeching noise in my ear. And I hear it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it never goes away. Right now, that's what I hear. And I was in the military for 8.5 years. And that's one of the many great things that the military gave to me for, the Army. So he said, have you ever heard of binaural beats? Nope, I'd never heard of it. He goes, hey, put these headphones on. I want to play some music for you and tell me if you feel a difference. Now, look, I had done a lot to get rid of this. I was in a drug testing. I was a guinea pig for, medicine that would cure this and whatever. It's music. So he plays a few tones. And on the third one, I noticed something amazing. Silence.
Wow.
Silence I had not heard in 30 years. 30 years I had not heard silence.
Wow.
You put me in a quiet room, it's a quiet room with this screeching going on.
Miserable.
And you want to talk about emotional, the emotion that came out of me was crazy. And he goes, we found it.
Wow.
So that, as you can imagine, number one, made me very passionate about this because I know that it can help people. But number two, I sat there thinking, man, I know a lot of people suffer from this, a lot. I did not have any clue how many dentists have ruined their hearing with their drills, or how many musicians ruined their hearing because of, beating the drums and not protecting their hearing. So number one, I want to tell everybody out there listening, protect your hearing.
Noted.
Very, very important to protect your hearing. Stop listening to very loud noises. Bad idea. But number two, give some people hope that they can get some benefit from binaural beats as well. And I also learned how many other things this can help treat. And let's talk about that.
That's interesting. Yeah, well, just to bookmark that part, thank you for sharing. It makes a lot of sense. And wow, I can't even imagine the misery and the torture of having that constant sound, because that literally is a form of torture, sometimes in other countries or serious situations
100%.
to always, and so to always have that going on and still try and be functional and not be irritable all the time. Like you seem like a very joyful person to me. And so that I can't imagine how hard that journey has been and how great that at the end of this road of trying probably many things you didn't even mention, so many things I bet to get rid of that, you found binaural beats. And also thank you for your service. I know that is an unfortunate side effect of serving in the Army or other forces is sometimes things like this happen, but
I loved every minute of it. I'll be honest with you. It was a small price to pay. It was great.
Good. We're lucky to have you. So binaural beats was your relief. And I'm imagining, have you seen those YouTube videos where like the child who hasn't been able to hear gets a hearing aid and then they cry and
Cochlear
hear their moms?
implants. Yeah.
It's
It always gets me like, really it punches me right in the feels.
I
Very
imagine
cool.
yours, but it's like the opposite. It's like, oh, finally silence for the first time in 30 years. That's so emotional and wonderful. So then you were inspired by binaural beats and wanted to create Melody Cloud. So tell us a little bit about what your Melody Cloud subscription is.
So right now we do a 60-day trial for $2.99. $2, $3. Okay. And you can try 8,000 hours of guided meditation, 17,000 audiobooks. We're right now in the process of loading 8,000 episodes of old time radio. There's 30,000 books that people can read. Some people like to read, some people like being read to. Then you've got guided meditation. You have Solfeggio, which we can talk about. Solfeggio, binaural beats, nature sounds. I mean, there's a lot of 300,000 files of content right now on Melody Clouds.
Wow.
That $2.99 at the end of the 60-day trial turns into $6, $5.99. Or you can, do it for the year. It's $59.99 for the year.
Okay.
And we have a lot more people buy it for the year than I thought was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very reasonably afforded. So, is all of that soundtrack, does it have binaural beats behind it so people can
Not everything.
Okay.
Not everything. The binaural beats is in its own section. Solfeggio, binaural beats, the relaxing meditations, they're in their section.
Okay.
Audiobooks, I have an API that you can type in what subject of book you're looking for. Most of the classics, Dracula, Wuthering Heights, Tom Sawyer, a lot of the classics, all read to you by professional voiceover actors. They're awesome. I will say that Aesop's Fables, you remember Aesop's Fables?
I do.
I'm going to get emotional now. So a Hall of Fame radio announcer is doing all of the Aesop's Fables, 138 stories that Aesop gave us. He does them brilliantly. They're the only place you can hear this guy do it is on Melody Clouds. And that alone is worth the cost of admission. I love Gary Meyer. I mean, his voice is perfect.
Wow. So what a great resource. It's like Audible, but more.
And by the way, we're continuing to grow every single month. So if we're missing something, people need to tell me what it is. I'll find it.
Okay. I believe that you would take them up on that. You mentioned Solfeggio a few times. So tell us what that is. I wasn't familiar with that word until I was looking at this podcast. So tell us what that means and how that relates. Story.
Solfeggio was discovered by a 11th century Italian monk, Guido di Arezzo. And Guido noticed something that you and I take for granted now, but back then nobody realized. So I don't play a musical instrument. Erin, do you play a musical instrument?
I did a couple, but it's very rusty.
Okay. So you and I, if we saw a guitar that was out of tune, I would be able to tell that it was out of tune. Sure. You would be able to. When you hear me sing, you will be able to tell that I have no pitch, no tune, no nothing. Okay.
Okay.
That ability is solfeggio. Knowing when something is not in the correct vibration and correcting it. So auto-tuning me would be a solfeggio.
Okay.
You don't want to hear me sing in my natural voice. We need to solfeggio that bad boy. All right. Okay. So that's getting that back into tune. That's really what he discovered.
Like satisfying that dissonance.
Yes. Your mood changes when you're not hearing me sing and you are hearing someone who can sing.
Got it. Okay. What a cool name. I was just telling our producer earlier, I really like how different cultures have different words that encapsulate those things that sometimes our English language doesn't have a word for. So what does solfeggio have to do with binaural beats or like healing through music?
Great questions. Good God. All right. So if you hear something that is out of tune or the cacophony, the sounds around you are not allowing you to be in tune, right? That is going to affect your mood. And
Right.
with solfeggio frequencies, you can dictate and manipulate people's moods. It's more of a musical, the music doing it. Let me
Okay.
give you an example of this. Okay.
Okay.
You and I, we walk down the street and I say, hey, let's stop into this church real quick. Let's say a quick prayer. All right.
Yeah.
You agree. We go in. It's a large church and there's a dirge, a organist playing. Without us even looking at one another, we're going to know voices down, very reverent attitude, right? We were
Right.
just on the street talking and having a good time, but now we've got a shift of mood.
Right.
Agree?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm done. And you say, you know what? That's not my jam. That's not the way that I, do that. Follow me. So we leave there, go directly across the street. We are now in a Southern Baptist revival. Praise, hands go above our heads. It is now a party. Our mood has been uplifted, right?
Yeah. Amen. Yes.
We have taken charge of our mood. That's our tagline. Take charge of your mood. If you're angry, do something about it. Listen to music that is not going to allow that anger or sadness or grief or depression. I'm not saying that medication doesn't help or, there's no place for that. That is absolute. There's no doctor in front of my name.
Right.
What I'm saying to you is, though, what a good story will do. What it's our music for a reason.
Right. You're talking about shifting your mood or helping maybe just increase the joy or gratitude perhaps in your life. You're not talking about treating clinical depression this way. I understand
Yes.
that. Okay. 2 follow-up questions.
Sure.
1, does this work for people who are completely tone deaf?
100%. Yes.
How?
Because, okay, a good question. Just because your perception of that vibration may be off or wrong. In other words, you may not be able to identify it, but your brain still operates at the same frequencies everybody else's brain operates.
Okay.
Does that make
So
sense?
that explains why people who are really tone deaf also really love to sing and often loudly.
Why would they
They're
not
still
be
having
turned
a
off?
great time.
Why would they not be turned off of good music?
Got it.
We will agree on what a good singer sounds like.
Got it. You're right. Because it's more about what you're hearing, not what you're
It's-
producing. Yeah.
Exactly. What can you produce? Right. Exactly. You can
Okay.
identify. It's the same reason that there's a coach in football. He's not the wide receiver. He's coaching the wide receivers. Does
Right.
that make sense?
Got it. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Other
Right.
follow-up question. I think I already know the answer, but just want your thoughts on this. So you were talking about using this method. If you're angry, like don't listen to angry music, listen to something that will make you happy. Could you also use it as a cathartic method? Because sometimes when I'm angry, it like helps me to listen to some intense music to just vent it out. So I assume it would work both ways, right?
100%. I mean, think about this. Look, I'm a big Depeche Mode. When I was a teenager, man, judge me if you will, but I love the feeling of that, depression and getting into my
angst.
emotions and stuff. And there's a danger to that if you get too deep. Or Morrissey. I just took my kids to a Morrissey concert. Okay. And they did me like, this totally explains why you are the way you are. To me, it allowed me an escape, those emotions, a place to just come out of me where
Right.
it wasn't allowed before. The same thing when you're talking about either happy or sad, those emotions are all in their lanes.
Right.
Imagine a freeway. We're all on the freeway. I'm in the happy lane. You're in the sad lane. Okay, so you turn the blinker on, that's the binaural beat, that's listening to music, and you just switch lanes.
Right.
That's the way that I picture this. It's
Right.
the oversimplification, of course, but still, that's the way I tend to look at this.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like the relief that you got from finding binaural beats made you so passionate too about just music in general and helping people connect to that emotional experience, that this was sort of born out of both the emotion and then also obviously the relief you wanted to share with other people who suffer from tinnitus.
Yeah.
However you say it.
Yeah, the ear thing. Yeah, I
The
get it.
ear
No.
thing.
Listen, it's beyond that. Okay, there are 17 movies in existence that do not include a soundtrack. Now, The reason that they don't have a soundtrack, we can argue. I know that Alfred Hitchcock, The Birds, that doesn't have a soundtrack because he fought like hell not to have a soundtrack to that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Every movie, including silent movies, had a soundtrack to them. Why? Because we needed a way of being directed how to feel about the images we were seeing on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
To include Top Gun Maverick, everyone walking out of that theater felt patriotic. They felt empowered. They felt, they were ready to go. Wall-E. This movie is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. You can take a 4 and 5-year-old child, sit them in front of the television, turn on Wall-E. There is not a single word of dialogue for 1 hour and 40 minutes to that movie. Yet they will sit there, hands folded, and watch that little robot fall in love, work hard, be in a precarious situation. They'll laugh. They'll get very sad.
Right.
All due to the soundtrack, to the music. So
Right.
don't believe in binaural beats. That's fine. Believe in solfeggio, whatever. I'm telling you that you can change moods with the music on Melody Clouds.
Yeah. Or I'm thinking even of the Fantasia movies, right? Where it's literally just visual and audio and it evokes so much emotion. Good examples for sure. Well, I can add in a little flavor here with psychology background, but how would you say that music does transform our mood? Like we agree it happens, but how does that happen?
Well, there are a number of ways. The first way is nostalgia. And here's a very good example of this. So we're partnering with a lot of convalescent homes.
Yeah.
Where people are either suffering from PTSD or they're aging and there's a lot of dementia and they're non-communicative.
Right.
What we have found is that you take them the music they grew up with, and a lot of that starts to unwind itself. They become more emotive. They become more emotional and they start to communicate again because they remember, and you can see it generational. Now it's cutting through all of the fog of the dementia and the Alzheimer's and all of the things that, have ravaged them. And look, this is well documented. The jury has been in for a long time on this.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. We've hardwired these tones and sounds and, through muscle memory and the muscle being the brain. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But also it's more than scientific. There's something else to it that
Spiritual.
maybe we haven't put our finger on yet, or we wouldn't each have our own preferences.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why isn't everyone a metalhead? Why isn't everyone listening to jazz? I can't stand jazz.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And I think I was thinking of the word like spiritual or maybe even just emotional because, yeah, I mean, it's not just a logical linear thing. Music really touches something deep in us and everybody's experience plays a little different into that. So, and also I was thinking of the different parts of the brain, and it's not like there's a music part of the brain, right? It's not processed in just one place. Really, there's different parts of the brain that process the different aspects of music, which also made sense with what you were saying, how it can get past the prefrontal cortex or some of the fog of dementia, because it just reaches all these different areas that are more, I don't want to say, well, I guess basic would make sense. Not that music is basic, but it's a more basic functioning level of the brain. So like the amygdala or the cerebellum, for example, and they sort of process the emotion, but then also the rhythm or the tone. Those are all different areas of the brain working together. So it's really a powerful thing.
Well, a lot of it is vibration too, because you can take someone who has no
True.
hearing, has never heard.
True.
Right? Take them to a concert and they feel more than they hear. So
yeah, it makes sense.
There's a lot that we don't know, but there is a lot that, we can infer, from stuff like this. Let's say that we found somebody that did not like music at all. There are enough guided meditations, helping people to reach a calmer space or to release those emotions, on Melody Clouds to make even that, the cost of it. I've never met anyone that really didn't like music.
I know when you said that, I was like,
listening to.
I don't think anyone hates music, which is really interesting.
I realized it as soon as I said it, but look, I'm sure that it's possible. I'm positive that we are varied enough that there is a community of people that do not like that. Maybe it's the emotional grip of music.
Yeah,
It may not have anything to do
maybe.
with the vibration.
Yeah, so interesting. So we talked about how music can shift mood. How would you say that it helps with healing and relaxation?
This
Let's
is
hear
my
it.
favorite part because it really is interesting to a lot of people. All right, you're a doctor. I am not a
Yeah.
doctor. One of the things that I noticed, though, is we do not take someone who's been hit by a car or injured and leave them in a spot just off the side of the road.
Right.
We take them to a hospital, and we take them to a hospital for a reason. It's warm, it's dry, we can feed them, and we can allow them the space to heal.
Yeah.
Music does the exact same thing, and binaural beats do the exact same thing. The brain is what dictates and organizes where all of the resources of the body go.
Hmm.
You have a problem with the kidneys, your brain is actually what sends the resources to the kidney to fix whatever the issue is. The leg, same thing. Our brain, we know, organizes everything that goes on in our body.
Hmm.
So if you put someone in a calm space and you keep them relaxed, the brain is no longer fight or flight. The brain can properly put you in the mode of healing, and that's what it does. And you heal. There's been tons of studies on this. Your
Yep.
brain will heal faster. You will heal better. You will be up and moving quicker. And the reason is because you've put yourself in that focused space to where your brain can actually do what your brain's job is.
Well said. Yes. So in the psychology realm, we say that you can't heal in the same place that you were hurt.
There you
And
go.
we don't, yeah. Sometimes that's literal, but sometimes it's more of that emotional state where it's like,
Sure.
especially trauma victims, if their body is still activated, like you said, fight or flight, it's so hard to heal. And you're correct, tons of studies that the music actually stimulates the vagus nerve, and particularly singing along to music stimulates the vagus nerve, which sends out relaxation where you're in parasympathetic nervous system where you relax.
Well, you've
So
just given me the reason that I'm going to keep singing even when people are asking me to stop singing. So I'm going to tell people, hey, I'm healing right now. So leave me alone.
yes, definitely. No, but I could really see how music would be a helpful tool, even in conjunction with therapy. A lot of people do that already, or even like the reason why people get so much out of communities and cultures that have music as part of their tradition. Like you mentioned, church as an example earlier, or mass, or even, a more informal type of gathering. And those things really are healing because it tells your body you're safe, you're loved, you're not alone. And that's where a lot of powerful things can happen.
Well, that's one of the first uses of music were drums. People, we went to war, communication, being able to communicate with other people that maybe didn't speak your language. You could communicate to them through your singing, through your, because it sounds much different. An aggressive type of utterance is way different than if you're calm and relaxed and you're singing something that's, praise or happy too.
Right.
You walk up to a tribe of people that are dancing around you'll be able to tell very quickly, most likely, whether or not they're about to go to war or whether they are celebrating something. So
Yes.
that was a very easy, early way for us to communicate.
We'll be right back after word from our sponsor.
Are you preparing for a licensure exam in psychology, social work, marriage and family therapy, counseling, or behavioral analysis? AATBS is here to help. We have been supporting behavioral and mental health students to prepare for their licensure exams for more than 45 years, working with over 1 million students to succeed on test day and move on to the next step in their career. With products ranging from comprehensive courses to quiz banks and delivered live online, self-study online, and in print, AATBS has test prep solutions that meet every student's needs and learning styles. Visit us today at aatbs.com. That's aatbs.com and use promo code BHT15 to save 15% off your next purchase.
No, it makes sense. So we talked a lot about how music can help with healing. I'm curious to learn more about binaural beats, just, more about what that is in general. And then as I understand it, Melody Cloud has a really unique way of incorporating that into your resources and your sounds. Can you speak to that a bit more?
Sure. Okay, so binaural beats. Binaural beat is one frequency going in one ear.
Okay.
Another frequency very closely related goes into the other ear. Your brain will then make up the difference, and it will, depending on what frequencies you've put in each ear, that will be the frequency that your brain makes up the difference.
Okay, that
So
makes
in
sense.
other words, if you're sad, you would put one frequency in one ear, one frequency in the other ear, and that would disrupt the frequency of sadness your brain's already operating at and move it to a frequency that is, more focused or more contemplative or healing or
Okay.
whatever.
Is this the same thing as when I can't remember, I think it was like fourth grade where you learn how to play the recorder, right? And they're introducing you to all of these music sounds. And they would play sometimes on the piano too. Like they play one note and then another note, and your brain automatically fills in a third note.
Right.
It's the same function, right?
Yes, that
Okay.
yes sounds exactly like what we're talking about here.
Okay.
And
So
in
that's
this
binaural
case,
beats.
right. In this case, you go to Melody Clouds and you go there with a purpose, and you
Right.
say, all right, look, I'm feeling sad, but I would like to feel this way. Then you would listen to music that has those binaural beats that will help you feel that way.
Yes. Very interesting. Or in your case too, can negate the tone you're already hearing and
Correct.
create silence.
Exactly right.
Very
Yep.
interesting. Okay.
White
Okay.
noise, a lot of people use white noise and try and do the same thing, but it's very difficult sometimes for people. This is what I discovered. It's very difficult to get exactly the right white noise. So now you're hearing a bunch of fuzz sound, and on top of that, you're hearing, your tinnitus.
Right. Not as much. So, how does Melody Clouds layer audio media with binaural beats?
Right. So with Melody Clouds, what we are working on right now, you
Okay.
would need to use the Melody Cloud app to do this.
Okay.
But you would be playing something out of your iTunes account, whatever music you wanted to listen to, and layer on top of that the binaural beats. So
Okay.
it's more of a mixed in. You would mix it right in. And we're very, very, very close to unveiling it on Melody Clouds. But I'm telling you, from me to you, it is definitely in the works.
Okay.
As it stands right now, I am having to hire composers to create music and put specific binaural beats on that music so people can get their relief.
Wow. Okay. It's really cool to hear
Yeah.
what you're working on.
Oh my
And
God.
I
And
think
by
that's
the
such
way,
a fun idea.
that is a small piece too.
Sure.
Aaron, let me tell you something. I have a machine right now that is about to become part of Melody Clouds that has thousands of sounds and binaural beats. So right now I can make nature sounds. I could, use the ocean, and I could use fire, and I could use all of these sounds. And then right now you are able to put in those binaural beats that you want to. So part of this is
Wow.
already a reality. The really slick part is going to be when you're listening to Morrissey and making your brain really happy about that.
Extra happy. Yes. Wow. This is so exciting. Do you feel like your primary demographic has a certain age range or population? I mean, I used to work with kids and teens quite a bit. So I'm thinking teenagers would love this because it's a way to cope and listen to music. It's like so helpful. What do you feel like your most popular population base is?
I love this question. And I'll tell you why. Because I am horrible. I've just discovered this about me. I am horrible at figuring out who my customer is going to be for something.
Okay.
I am disgustingly bad at it. So what I have done to compensate is I have gone to Google Analytics, and Google is able to tell me who my customer is. So my audience right now, very young, so 18 to 25, 26.
I knew it. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But also 55 to 85.
Yes.
Now, one group is much larger than the other. but the smaller group is way more sticky and passionate about what it is I'm doing. So
Okay.
both of those things are very important.
Okay, well, let's say somebody wants to get started with Melody Cloud. Where would
Very
they
easy.
go? What are the prices and
Yep.
subscriptions? Give us the nitty-gritty details.
So $2.99 for the next 60 days.
Okay.
You get 60 days to try it out. The largest button on Melody Clouds, and I want everybody to check this out. The largest button on Melody Clouds, guess what it is?
The trial?
Unsubscribe. The
Oh,
unsubscribe
no.
button. Yes. No, listen, I don't want them to unsubscribe, but I want you to know where it is. I don't want your money.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You mean
I
like the
don't want your
biggest,
money if you
not the
are
most frequent.
dissatisfied. So
Got it.
number one, biggest button. Listen, Apple and Android both said, "Are you sure that you want this?" But this button seems to be the biggest button. Yes, I do, and here's why. Number one, I could have charged 10 times what I'm charging.
Yes.
I will
yes.
never charge $30 a month for Melody Clouds. It's offensive to me. It makes no sense.
Mhm.
I've been able to do what I'm doing and put the bandwidth that it's in. I'm fine. Okay.
Okay.
I want as many people to enjoy this, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is. You've heard that expression. Well,
Right.
I'm the guy. I'm doing it. Second thing, I'm challenging everybody. Go to the iOS, go to Android, download the app, and before you do it, you look at what information I'm collecting with Melody Clouds and what I allow others to collect while you're using Melody Clouds.
Mhm.
None. Zero.
Thank you.
So while you are using Melody Clouds, no one can collect your information, and I don't need it. I'm never going to sell your information to anybody. That to me is horrifying.
Mhm.
But I will tell you this. I'm doing that as an experiment. This is my fun. I get to experiment and find out who really appreciates it, like you. I believe you, Aaron. I totally think that you are glad that at last someone is not more interested in their information than they are in the actual app that they're putting.
Totally. Like, I get you need to know some things to run a business. I'm fine with that. But yeah, it's kind of scary when you realize what's happening online. So yeah, I do. I genuinely appreciate that.
Why do I
And it
need to
means
follow
care.
you the next 5 places that you go? Why do I need to know what shoes you prefer? None of that is of interest to me.
Yeah. And it speaks that your heart is really to provide this service and that your passion really is what you're doing. It's not about the money for you, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 100%. I've done the math. I know what I need.
Right.
What I am interested in, though, is how many people like you and I will put their money where their mouth is. How many people does it really bother that they're collecting information from all over the place for just a simple app that helps me relax and go to sleep? That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like this could be a good alternative.
I want to mention one thing real quick.
Okay.
We didn't get a chance to talk about, but I want to make sure I slide that in there. If you're like me and you are a mind racer, you lay in bed and your mind is just going 100 miles an hour, or if you have trouble sleeping, I want to invite you to go into Melody Clouds, go to the binaural beats for sleep and relaxation. And I want you to listen to 447 megahertz. And I want you to try and stay awake. I want you to fight like you know what to try and stay awake. So if you have trouble sleeping and you don't want any drugs, you don't want to take melatonin, you don't want to take something that may be addictive, and you want to see if this could actually work for you, that's my challenge. Go download this app, $2.99, $3, right?
Worth
and
it.
try and stay awake.
Okay. 447. I'm going to remember that. I'm going to try it.
You are going to drop like a sack of potatoes.
Can I try it on my husband too?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's great. That's a good starting point for people, I think. Do you have a hallmark story of someone who was really impacted by Melody Clouds, or maybe something you want to leave our listeners with for that are struggling, or how Melody Clouds could really help them?
Thankfully, I have a ton of people who, including myself, but a ton of people that have contacted me. People have hunted me down and called me on the phone. And a lot of them are super close to me. but the ones that are not, the ones that are far out of my reach, hearing how this has affected and impacted them really does make everything that I've done. I always thought that was just, words, but it has absolutely made everything that we have fought for in the last 8 months, 7 months worth it. I contacted by a mother, okay. Brand new mother. And I had the genius idea, lullabies, and those lullabies are cut in 20-hour increments, 20 hours. Now, am I suggesting you put your baby down for 20 hours? No, that would be a horrible thing to do. As much as you may want to do that, bad, stop. But here's what it does. And I think this is freaking genius. You put the baby down, the first skill we learn as little baby human beings is what? I'll tell you, self-soothing.
Oh, I see. Like skill. Got
yes,
it. Yeah.
Well, skill. Crying is a skill. You got to make it work. If you
right,
it's not going to get anybody's attention. You got to really belt it out. You're right. That's the first skill.
Okay.
Second skill is self-soothing.
And music can help quite a bit with that.
Oh my God.
I bet.
Those lullabies, if you provide an atmosphere that is exactly the same as when they drifted off to sleep, they will look, and very quickly, we're talking hours, if not days, very quickly realize I'm in the same place I was when I went to sleep. I am safe. I'm dry. I'm warm. Everything is cool. And they go right back to sleep. And to a new parent, that is gold.
Well, your audience right here, I just had my first baby a few months ago, and I know exactly what you're talking about because I know too much about this. Yeah, 4 months, their sleep cycles shift to be more similar to an adult. So the sleep cycle is about every 2 hours, maybe an hour and 45 minutes. And they wake up almost on the dot every 2 hours, and you have to get them back down. And it is pure torture if you don't have an easy sleeper. And they do recommend white noise, but sometimes that doesn't always do it. So I could easily see how this could help in that situation.
You find music that they their jam, you find that little baby's jam and, voila.
Yes. Or even I was thinking for mothers too, because we're so sleep deprived that we tend to get anxious because we're not getting enough sleep. And so this could also be helpful for mom to actually go to sleep quickly because sometimes you only have 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Brief. And if you get too in your head, you can't relax enough to sleep. So yeah, there's so many ways this could be useful. I'm just thinking of all these examples now. Yeah.
Well, there's also 3,000 children's books in our audiobook section. So you want a smart baby and you can't read to them 24 hours a day, but someone can. And so you put that on and they're listening to that language over and over again. They'll talk quicker. They'll be smarter. And these are all, borne out by scientific study after scientific study.
Well, I think we just filled in the age gap between your youngest and your biggest audience right here.
You gotta find out why.
New moms and young families.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this. Is there a place that someone can go just to learn more about Melody Clouds? Like, do you have a website? What's the best way to find this information?
Brand new, just for you, brand spanking new website. It is absolutely gorgeous. melodyclouds with an S.com. So melodyclouds.com. If they want to get in touch with me, it's Wayne Altman at Melody Clouds. I answer my own email. I love answering questions or hearing feedback of any kind, really, to be honest with you. But even the negative feedback I grow from, even the negative feedback, I had someone and we went round and round and I said, hey, listen, this is nothing personal. Let me fix this. So if there's something that someone finds that they don't particularly care for, I want to know about it. And you're going to wonder where customer service went because I have it. I have it all.
Yeah. No, well, thanks for sharing that. We'll definitely include that in the bottom of our show notes so people can reference it if they're interested. Well, Wayne, I just really appreciate you being here today. I think you might be the most enthusiastic podcast guest I've had so far, and it's just been so much fun. So thank you for taking the time to share your passion project with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I definitely appreciate the very intelligent questions that you've asked. So it's obvious that, you're interested in what I had to say, and I cannot thank you enough for that.
Of course. Yeah, it's been my pleasure. And I do think our audience will find this really interesting and useful. And I'm definitely going to try out the relaxation to sleep one the next time I'm overthinking everything.
Oh, be careful.
Well, I also want to remind our listeners that this episode, its resources, and all of our other shows can be found on our webpage at triadhq.com/BHT. Visit triadhq.com/BHT today and explore our archive. And finally, we want to thank you, our listeners, for joining in on the conversation. We appreciate you, and we look forward to having you back with us next time on Behavioral Health Today.
We appreciate all the support from our community, and if you like our show, one of the best ways you can support it is by giving us a 5-star rating and leaving a review. Behavioral Health Today is a podcast part of the Tribe Network, all rights reserved.